Park Hyun-woo stood in front of the big glass doors and took a deep breath. The council building was huge and made of some kind of crystal that glowed with its own light. He had been Earth's main ambassador for 5 years now, but this place still made him feel small. His hands were shaking a little, but he kept them behind his back so nobody could see. Kim So-ra stood next to him holding a small device that showed all their documents. She was young but very smart, and Park trusted her more than anyone else in the diplomatic team. She looked worried, and he did not blame her. The council had called them here with very angry words, and everyone knew this was not going to be a normal meeting. The air around them felt heavy and thick, like being underwater. Park had heard other ambassadors talk about this, but experiencing it was different. The council liked to make visitors uncomfortable. It was one of their ways of showing power. They controlled everything about this place, from the gravity to the air pressure, to make sure everyone knew who was in charge. Other beings walked past them, heading to different parts of the building. There were tall blue creatures with too many arms, short furry things that moved in groups floating. Jellyfish like aliens that glowed purple. Park had seen many strange beings during his time as ambassador, but he still found it amazing how many different forms life could take. Kim So-ra whispered to him very quietly, "The council wants to punish US for being too successful. They do not like that humans are doing better than they expected when we joined the galactic community 5 years ago. They thought we would be grateful just to have a seat at their table." Park nodded but did not answer. Out loud, the walls probably had listening devices, and everything they said would be recorded and studied. The council was famous for using people's own words against them later. He had learned to be very careful about what he said in this building. Massive doors started to open with a sound like thunder. The noise was so loud that Park felt it in his chest. The council chamber was beyond those doors, and once they went inside, there would be no going back. Whatever happened in there would decide humanity's future. Among the stars inside the chamber was a huge round room with seats going up like a mountain. The ceiling was so high that Park could not see the top in the dim light. 47 different species had representatives here, and they were all looking down at the small area in the center where humans would have to stand. At the very top of the room were 3 beings that nobody really understood. They were called the Eternal Voices, and they had been running the council for thousands of years. They looked like they were made of light and mist, and when they talked, their words seemed to come from everywhere at once. Park walked to the center of the room with Kim So-ra following close behind. The floor was made of the same crystal as the walls, and their footsteps echoed in the huge space. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him and judging him. Some of the beings made clicking sounds, others hummed or whistled. It was like being in the middle of a very strange orchestra. The first voice started to speak, and its words filled the entire chamber. "Humanity, you have been called here to answer for your crimes against the galactic order. You have expanded too fast into space. You have taken too many resources from planets. You have built too many ships and weapons. You threaten the peace we have kept for thousands of years." Park felt his heart beating faster, but he kept his face calm. The accusations were exactly what he had expected. The council was angry because humans had been more successful than anyone thought possible. When Earth joined the galactic community, most species thought humans would be grateful followers who did what they were told. Instead, humans had built colonies on 17 different worlds. They had created mining operations that produced more resources than some entire species. They had developed new technologies that made other civilizations look backward. Most importantly, they had done all of this without asking permission from the council. The second voice continued the accusations. "Your people ignore our guidance. You build where you want without caring about established territories. You create new weapons without asking if they are safe. You act like you own the galaxy." Instead of being grateful guest, Kim So-ra was recording everything on her device, but Park could see her hands were shaking with anger. The council was treating humans like children who had misbehaved instead of equals who had followed all the rules. Every human colony was on a planet with no other intelligent life. Every mining operation was an empty space where no one else had claims. Every ship was built with human technology in human space. The third voice delivered the final blow. "The council has decided what will happen to humanity. You will stop expanding beyond the worlds you already control. You will reduce your mining to levels we approve. You will bring your military ships back to Earth space. If you refuse, we will cut you off from all galactic trade and kick you out of the council. The silence that followed was complete. Park stood very still for a long moment, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Humans had tried so hard to be good members of the galactic community. They had followed every rule, shared their technology with other species, and helped solve problems across the galaxy, but none of that mattered to the council. What mattered was that humans were becoming too powerful, too independent, too successful. The other species had been part of this system for thousands of years, and they liked things the way they were. They did not want competition from newcomers who might change everything. Park looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked curious about what he would say. Others seemed bored, like this was just another routine punishment. Still, others appeared hungry, like they were waiting to see humans humiliated and brought down to size. Kim So-ra moved closer to him and whispered, "Sir, what do we do? The whole future of humanity depends on what you say next." Park smiled then, and it was not the kind of smile anyone expected. He looked up at the eternal voices and then at all the other species representatives. His voice was calm and clear when he finally spoke. "Thank you for making this so easy for us," he said, and everyone in the chamber seemed confused by his words. "Humanity respectfully declines your offer. We will not reduce our expansion. We will not limit our mining. We will not recall our ships." The chamber erupted in noise as hundreds of beings started talking at once, clicking, whistling, and making sounds that the translation devices could not handle. The eternal voices pulsed with colors that meant they were shocked and angry. No species had ever simply said no to a council ultimatum. Park continued speaking over the noise. "And since you have made it clear that we are not welcome as equal members of your community, we hereby resign from the Galactic Council effective immediately. Thank you for your time." He turned to leave and Kim So-ra followed him, still holding the recording device. Their footsteps echoed in the crystal chamber as every being in the room watched them walk away. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had told the council no and then simply left. The great doors closed behind them with another sound like thunder as they walked through the crystal corridors heading back to their ship. Park felt something he had not experienced in years. He felt completely free. Kim So-ra was practically bouncing with excitement. "Sir, do you realize what we just did? We just told the most powerful organization in the galaxy that we do not need them." Park nodded, still smiling. "Yes, we did, and now we get to find out what humanity can accomplish when nobody is holding us back. The council wanted to put us in our place. Instead, they just gave us permission to find our own place among the stars." Behind them in the council chamber, the eternal voices and all the species representatives were still trying to understand what had just happened. Nobody walked away from their council. Nobody refused their ultimatums. Nobody chose independence over membership. But humans had just done all three things, and they had done it with a smile. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you tried to cage a species that was born to be free. Captain Lee Dongmin floated in zero gravity, looking out at the biggest fleet of ships he had ever seen. 300 vessels of every size and shape hung in space near Earth's moon like a city made of metal and lights. Each ship was packed with people leaving their homes on distant worlds to come back to Earth. It was the largest movement of humans in history. His communications officer, Han Soo-jin, called out from her station, "Captain, the last group from Kepler 442b just arrived through the jump gate that makes all 17 colonies accounted for. We have brought home 2.7 million people totally." Nodded as he watched the ships on his display screen. Each tiny dot represented thousands of families who had spent years building new lives on alien worlds. Now they were refugees, carrying only what they could pack in a few hours. But instead of being angry or sad, most of them seemed excited about what came next. The evacuation had taken 3 months, and every day brought new challenges. Some colonies were so far away that the journey home took weeks. Other worlds had been hit by storms or equipment failures that made leaving dangerous. But every single human had made it safely to the ships. The council had expected chaos and failure. Instead, they got the most organized retreat in galactic history. Dr. Yoon-ji-hai was studying her instruments at the science station. "Captain, I am detecting some very strange readings from our old mining platforms," the automated Systems are still running, but they are doing something completely different from normal mining operations. Lee moved over to look at her screens. The data showed energy patterns unlike anything they had seen before. The mining stations that humans had built throughout the outer rim were indeed still working, but instead of just digging up, or they seemed to be building something. The power levels were enormous. They are not just mining anymore, Jihai continued with excitement in her voice. They are manufacturing something. The stations are taking raw materials and turning them into finished products. I am reading massive energy signatures that match our most advanced construction systems. A slow smile spread across Lee's face as he realized what was happening. The council thought they were forcing humanity to abandon valuable equipment and facilities instead. The humans had activated secret programs that had been waiting for exactly this moment. The mining stations were transforming into something much more important. Admiral Kim Tae-hyung appeared on the main communication screen broadcasting from the Lunar Command Center. Behind him, Lee could see hundreds of people working at control stations coordinating the massive logistical operation. His face was serious, but his eyes showed the satisfaction of someone whose careful plans were working perfectly. Captain Lee, the Admiral began, I trust your people are all safely aboard the evacuation fleet. I am contacting you because we have received some interesting reports from our friends in the Council. It seems they are very pleased with themselves for forcing us to abandon our infrastructure. Lee could not help but laugh. Sir, I believe they are about to learn that humanity never really abandons anything. We just change how we use it. The Council thinks they won a victory by making us leave our colonies. Instead, they gave us the perfect excuse to try something we have been planning for years. Exactly, Admiral Kim replied, with his own smile barely hidden. The Council expects us to return to Earth with our heads hanging in shame. They think they have solved the human problem by forcing us back into our own solar system. What they do not understand is that we have just been given freedom to activate Project Prometheus. The name sent excitement through everyone on the bridge. Project Prometheus was humanity's most secret technological program. Something so classified that even most government officials did not know it existed. The basic idea was simple but revolutionary. Fully automated systems that could build anything from small tools to massive spaceships using nothing but raw materials and energy. Your orders, Captain, are to make sure every human gets home safely. Admiral Kim continued, once that is done, we will show the Council what humanity can accomplish when we are no longer bound by their rules. They wanted us to walk away from the galactic community. They are about to discover that sometimes when you force someone to leave, they take their best ideas with them. The transmission ended, and Leah looked out at the convoy of ships carrying humanity's people back to Earth. The Council saw defeat in their organized retreat. They saw a species that had been humbled and put in its place. What they failed to understand was that humanity had just been given the greatest gift possible: complete freedom to pursue their own path among the stars. Han Soo-jin called out excitedly, Captain, I am receiving priority messages from all our automated stations. The Prometheus systems are fully active. Construction has begun on the first wave of projects. All stations report nominal operation and ahead of schedule completion. Timesley felt a surge of pride as he thought about what his species had accomplished. The Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years using fear and control to keep other species in line. They had never encountered a civilization that would simply refuse to be controlled instead of fighting back or begging for mercy. Humans had done something completely unexpected. They had chosen freedom. Jihai was studying new data streams coming from the outer rim stations. Captain, the construction patterns are incredible. They are building ships, factories, research stations, and manufacturing complexes, all completely automated and all hidden from Council surveillance systems. The energy signatures suggest they are using nanotechnology on a scale never before attempted. The beauty of the plan was that it followed the letter of Council law. Humans had been ordered to withdraw their people from the Outer Rim territories. They had done exactly that. But the Council had never said anything about automated systems or artificial intelligence. The legal distinction would protect humanity while their machines built an empire over the next few days. Reports continued to flow in from the automated stations. Each facility was transforming according to pre-programmed instructions. Mining equipment became factory systems, transport ships became mobile refineries, research outposts became development centers. All of it happening without a single human present to violate council orders. Watch the tactical displays, showing the scope of the transformation. What had once been 17 small colonies scattered across multiple star systems was becoming something unprecedented, a fully integrated industrial complex that spanned light years and operated beyond anyone's ability to control. The evacuated colonists were not mourning the loss of their homes. Instead, they were excited about being part of something bigger. Many of them had helped design the Prometheus systems during their years on the frontier. Worlds they knew that leaving their colonies was not an end, but a beginning, as the last evacuation ship docked with the main fleet. Lee felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The Council had tried to punish humanity for being too successful. Instead, they had given them the perfect opportunity to become more successful than anyone had ever imagined. Admiral Kim's voice came over the communication system. One final time, all ships prepare for departure to Earth. The evacuation phase is complete. The construction phase has begun. Welcome to the future of human civilization. The Great Fleet turned toward home, carrying 2.7 million people, who had just participated in the greatest strategic withdrawal in galactic history behind them. Their automated systems continued the work of building something that would change the balance of power among the stars forever. The Council had wanted to see humanity walk away. They were about to discover that when humans left, they did not go quietly. They went with purpose, determination, and the absolute certainty that they could build something better than anything that had come before. Dro. Min-jun stood in the observation deck of the research station watching the first Prometheus-class constructor moved through space. The massive ship was nearly 10 kilometers long and looked nothing like any vessel humans had built before. Its hull seemed to flow and change shape as he watched, with surface panels moving and adjusting for maximum efficiency. The construction time is incredible, his colleague Dr. QAThe said as she studied the holographic blueprints floating between them. 6 months from raw asteroid material to fully operational heavy cruiser. The Council's most advanced shipyards take 3 years to build something half that size. Min-jun nodded, his attention focused on the manufacturing bays visible through the transparent sections of the constructor. Inside, thousands of mechanical arms moved in perfect coordination, assembling components with precision that human hands could never achieve. The entire process was automated, guided by artificial intelligence that had been improved through decades of secret research. The Council made a critical error, he said quietly. They assumed our strength was in our colonies, our mining operations, our visible infrastructure. They never suspected that our real advantage was our ability to innovate and adapt to any situation. Communication system chimed with an incoming message. Min-jun activated the display showing Admiral Kim Tae-hyung broadcasting from the Lunar Command Center behind him. A massive holographic map showed the positions of human assets throughout the galaxy. Dr. Oh, the Admiral began. I trust the Prometheus systems are performing beyond all expectations. We are ready to begin the next phase of our operations. The Council is starting to ask questions about what happened to our abandoned infrastructure. And Jun smiled as he gestured toward the constructor completing its latest project. Admiral, I'm pleased to report that all systems are exceeding our most optimistic projections. The first production run has been completed. 50 heavy cruisers, 25 exploration vessels, and 12 mobile shipyards, all fully automated and all operating at 100% efficiency. Excellent. And what about Council surveillance? They are beginning to investigate, Dr. Choi said from her monitoring station. Our intelligence sources report increased scanning activity in the Outer Rim territories. They are trying to determine what happened to our supposedly abandoned facilities. The Admiral's expression showed satisfaction. Let them look. By the time they understand what they are seeing, it will be too late to stop us. Doctor, are you ready to give them a demonstration of human ingenuity that they will never forget? Min-jun felt excitement building inside him. For months, humanity had been playing the role of the defeated species, quietly withdrawing from galactic affairs, while the Council congratulated itself on solving the human problem. In reality, every day of their supposed retreat had been spent preparing for this moment. Admiral, he said steadily, humanity is ready to show the galaxy what we can accomplish. When we are not bound by anyone else's limitations or rules the Council wanted to contain us, instead they have given us the freedom to reach our full potential. The tactical display shifted to show an overview of the Kepler sector. Where humanity's former colonies had been located, the Council had expected to find empty worlds and abandoned installations. Instead, the sector was now home to something that had never existed. Before a fully automated industrial complex that spanned multiple star systems, the beauty of our approach, Min-jun continued, is that we never violated a single Council regulation. We withdrew our people exactly as ordered. We ceased expansion beyond approved borders. We reduced our mining operations to acceptable levels. We simply never mentioned what our machines would do once we were gone. Dr. Choi laughed with pure delight. The Council's own laws protect us perfectly. They regulate the activities of living species, not automated systems. Technically, we are not even present in the Outer Rim anymore. Our machines are simply following their original programming. The Admiral's smile was predatory programming that includes the construction of the largest space-based manufacturing complex in galactic history. The Council wanted us to be small, contained, and manageable. Instead, they have given us the perfect legal framework to build an empire that does not require a single human to leave the solar system. As if to prove his point, the tactical display updated with new construction reports. Mining stations had become factory complexes. Transport ships had become mobile. Refineries, research outposts had become technological development centers, all of it automated, all of it growing, and all of it operating beyond the Council's ability to control. The transformation had been carefully planned for years. Every piece of equipment sent to the Outer Rim colonies had been designed with dual-purposes surface operations that satisfied Council observers and hidden capabilities that could be activated when needed. The evacuation order had been the trigger that unleashed humanity's true technological potential. Min-jun watched as new reports flowed in from across the sector. Construction of the first wave of facilities was ahead of schedule. Material processing was exceeding all projections. Energy generation was stable and increasing. The automated systems were not just following their programming, they were improving and adapting as they worked. The Admiral said, "We are receiving the first reconnaissance reports from Council space. Their fleets are mobilizing for investigation missions. They want to see what happened to our abandoned territories." "Let them come," Min-jun replied confidently. "What they will find is a fully operational industrial complex that technically belongs to no one. Our machines have no nationality, no government, and no political allegiance. They are simply following their programming to build and expand." The implications were staggering. The Council had spent thousands of years maintaining control through legal frameworks and bureaucratic restrictions. They regulated expansion, controlled resource allocation, and limited technological development through complex permit systems. But none of their laws applied to automated systems that had been programmed before the evacuation order. Dr. Choi was analyzing the latest production reports. "Min-jun, our manufacturing capacity is now equal to 12 Council member species combined, and we are still expanding. The automated systems are building more automated systems in an exponential growth pattern." The beauty of exponential growth was that it started slowly and then exploded beyond anyone's ability to control. The Council had been watching human activities for months, seeing steady but unremarkable progress. What they had missed was that each new facility was designed to build more facilities, creating a cascade effect that would soon reshape the entire galactic economy. Admiral Kim's transmission continued with updates from Earth. Humanity's government was preparing for the next phase of the plan. The official response to Council inquiries would be simple and legally unassailable. The automated systems were following their original programming, and no living humans were present to direct their activities. The Council never expected humanity to walk away, Min-jun said, his voice carrying the weight of prophecy. "They thought they were putting us in our place, forcing us to accept limitations on our growth and development. Instead, they have just discovered that when you force humanity to leave, we do not go quietly, we go with style, innovation, and the absolute determination to prove that we can build something better than anything the galaxy has ever seen." The observation deck fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what they had accomplished. In less than a year, humanity had gone from being a restricted member of the galactic community to operating the most advanced automated manufacturing complex in known space. All because the council had made the mistake of thinking that forcing someone to leave was the same as defeating them. The revolution had begun, and it was being led by machines that had no politics, no national loyalty, and no interest in galactic law. They had only one purpose: to build and expand and create until the entire galaxy understood that humanity's greatest strength had never been their colonies or their military forces. It had been their refusal to accept that anything was impossible. Counselor Vexthara stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, her insect-like body shaking with barely controlled rage. The holographic displays around the chamber showed intelligence reports that seemed impossible: automated factories covering entire asteroid belts, self-replicating construction systems, and a fleet of vessels that made the Council's military look like toys. The humans have made complete fools of us all, she said, her translated words carrying the full weight of her species' concept of shame and dishonor. While we celebrated forcing them to withdraw, they were building an empire that makes our greatest achievements look like the work of children playing with blocks. The first voice of the triumvirate pulsed with deep blue patterns indicating serious concern. How was this deception possible? Our monitoring systems detected no violations of the withdrawal protocols that we imposed upon them. We watched their evacuation. We confirmed their compliance. Admiral Park Jun-ho stepped forward from his position in the observers section. His presence at the emergency session was unusual, but the council had been forced to admit they needed answers that only humanity could provide. His uniform was simple, but his bearing showed the confidence of someone who held all the winning cards. There was no deception, he said calmly, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. We followed every single word of your demands exactly as you stated them. We withdrew. Our people reduced our mining operations and recalled our military vessels. We simply never agreed to shut down our automated systems. The chamber erupted in angry sounds from dozens of different species. Clicking, whistling, roaring, and harmonic vibrations filled the air as representatives voiced their outrage. Counselor Vexthara's outer shell turned deep purple, which meant extreme agitation in her species. You deliberately misled us, she accused. You knew we intended for all human presence to cease. In the Outer Rim territories, you exploited a technical loophole to violate the spirit of our agreement. Did we? Park Jun-ho asked with calm curiosity. Because I have carefully reviewed the exact wording of the Council's ultimatum. Nowhere in your demands do you mention automated systems, artificial intelligence, or self-replicating technology. You required humanity to cease expansion, reduce mining, and withdraw military forces. We complied with every requirement completely and totally. The second voice attempted to regain control of the increasingly chaotic session. The spirit of the law clearly indicated that we wanted all human activities to cease in the disputed territory. The spirit of the law is completely irrelevant, Park Jun-ho interrupted politely but firmly. The Council has always insisted on precise legal language in all agreements. You have rejected human proposals dozens of times for being too vague or open to misinterpretation. We simply applied the same standard of precision to your ultimatum that you apply to everyone else. Counselor Thrender of the crystalline hegemony spoke with the authority of someone whose species had held power for over 2,000 years. The Council demands immediate cessation of all automated activities in the Outer Rim territories. Your machines will be recalled, destroyed, or placed under Council supervision. The silence that followed was complete and absolute. Park Jun-ho stood perfectly still for several seconds, his expression showing nothing of his thoughts. When he finally spoke, his words hit the chamber like a physical shock. No, the single word seemed to echo endlessly in the vast space. For 3,000 years, no species had directly defied a Council ultimatum. The concept was so foreign to the established order that many of the assembled beings could not process what they had just heard. You refused, the first voice asked, its patterns shifting to configurations that had not been seen in centuries, indicating shock so profound it bordered on system malfunction. We refuse, Park Jun-ho confirmed without hesitation. Humanity is no longer bound by Council authority. We formally withdrew from the galactic community as you demanded. Your laws, regulations, and ultimatums no longer apply to us or anything we have created. Counselor Vexthara's voice rose to a shriek that her translator could barely handle. You cannot simply ignore the Council's authority. We represent the established order of the entire Galaxy. You represent 47 species park. Junho replied evenly, which is certainly impressive but hardly universal. The galaxy contains billions of worlds, trillions of sentient beings, and countless species who have never heard of your council. You have confused local political authority with universal cosmic law. The third voice tried to reassert some measure of control. The council has maintained galactic peace and stability for thousands of years. Your actions threaten to destroy everything. We have built our actions threaten your monopoly on power. Park Jun-ho corrected. There is a significant difference between the two. You have grown comfortable with a system that benefits established species at the expense of newcomers. Humanity's success exposes the fundamental limitations and unfairness of that system. The tactical displays around the chamber updated with new intelligence reports showing the continued expansion of human automated systems. The Council's own surveillance networks were being overwhelmed by the sheer scope and speed of human construction activities. New facilities came online every day, pushing the boundaries of what anyone thought possible. What exactly do you want? Counselor Thrender asked, his crystalline form dimming with what might have been the first hint of uncertainty he had shown in centuries. We want to be left completely alone. Park Jun-ho replied with a smile that contained no warmth or compromise. You forced us to leave your political community. We left. Now we are building our own community with our own rules and our own goals. The implications hit the assembled council members like a devastating wave. Humanity was not just defying council authority, they were creating a direct alternative to it. Every species that had ever felt constrained by council regulations, every world that had been denied membership, every civilization that had been marginalized by the established order would now have another choice. You are attempting to divide the galaxy. The first voice accused its patterns shifting toward configurations associated with deep fear. We are offering real choice, Park Jun-ho replied, something the council has never been comfortable with for obvious reasons. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the full scope of humanity's strategy became clear. The council had expected to humble humanity and force them into permanent subservience. Instead, they had created their greatest rival in galactic history, a rival that operated outside their legal framework, used technology they could not control, and offered alternatives they could not match. As Park Jun-ho prepared to leave the chamber, he paused and looked around at all the alien faces staring at him. Some showed anger, others confusion, and a few displayed what might have been grudging respect. The council never expected humanity to walk away. He said, his final words carrying the weight of absolute certainty. You thought forcing us to leave would solve your human problem. Instead, you have created something much larger. You have given us the freedom to show the galaxy what cooperation, partnership, and mutual respect can accomplish. When they replace domination, fear, and control, the great doors sealed behind him with a sound like thunder, leaving the council to contemplate a galaxy where their authority was no longer absolute. The age of unquestioned power was ending, replaced by something far more dangerous to established interests. The age of choice had begun. Captain Nam Subin stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, watching as the Androxy delegation approached through the asteroid field. The reptilian species had sent a small fleet to this neutral meeting point far from Council space. Their ships bore the distinctive markings of a people who had grown tired of endless restrictions and bureaucratic control. They are transmitting their credentials now, reported Lieutenant Bikasu from the communications station. Ambassador Shishkara of the Androxy Republic, formally requesting asylum and membership under the Human Autonomous Zone. Chartasubin nodded thoughtfully. In the 8 months since humanity had walked away from the Council, 19 species had made similar requests. Some were seeking refuge from Council persecution, others wanted access to human technology and trade opportunities. All of them represented growing dissatisfaction with the established galactic order that favored old species over new ideas. Grant them docking permission, she ordered, and transmit the standard welcome package. They will want to understand exactly what they are getting themselves into before making any final decisions. The New Horizon was one of 50 vessels serving As mobile embassies throughout the galaxy, each ship carried the authority to negotiate agreements, establish trade relationships, and offer membership in humanity's growing alliance. It was a completely different approach from the Council's centralized bureaucracy, one that prioritized flexibility and local decision. Making over rigid hierarchical control, Ambassador Sishkara arrived with a small group of advisors, her scaled features showing the strain of someone who had made a very difficult choice. The Androxy had been council members for over 800 years, but their repeated requests for industrial development had been denied to preserve what the council called ecological balance in their home system. Captain Nam, she began using the formal tones of diplomatic protocol. My people have watched with great interest as humanity has developed its autonomous territories. We have grown weary of council restrictions that serve no purpose except to maintain the existing balance of power. Subin gestured for the delegation to join her in the ship's main conference room, where holographic displays showed the current extent of human operations. The presentation was deliberately impressive. Thousands of automated facilities, hundreds of worlds under development, and a growing fleet of exploration vessels pushing into previously unexplored regions of space. The council told us you were dangerous expansionists, Sishkara continued as she studied the displays with obvious fascination. They said your technology was unstable, your society was chaotic, and your ambitions threatened galactic peace. What we see here suggests they were afraid of something entirely different, competition. Subin said simply, the council has grown comfortable with a system that benefits established species at the expense of newcomers and innovation. Humanity's rapid success threatens their monopoly on political and economic power. Dr. Lim Hae-jin, the ship's specialist in alien cultures, activated additional displays showing trade agreements and technological exchanges. What makes our approach fundamentally different is that we are not trying to control our partners or dictate their internal policies. We offer access to our technology, our markets, and our infrastructure. In return, we ask only for peaceful cooperation and mutual respect. The contrast with council policies was dramatic. Where the council imposed strict regulations on technological development, humanity offered assistance and collaboration. Where the council required tribute and submission, humanity asked only for friendship and fair trade. Where the council demanded conformity to established norms, humanity celebrated diversity and encouraged innovation. The choice before your people is straightforward, Subin explained. You can continue under council authority, following their restrictions and hoping for occasional permission to develop your own worlds according to their approved plans, or you can join us in building something completely new, a galactic community based on voluntary cooperation rather than imposed domination. Ambassador Sakara's features showed deep thought. And if we choose to align with humanity, what guarantees do we have that you will not simply become another council imposing your will on species you consider inferior? Is an excellent question, one that Subin had heard from many potential allies. The galaxy was filled with species who had been disappointed by promises of equality and partnership that had eventually turned into subjugation and exploitation. You have the guarantee of our fundamental structure, she replied, activating a display showing the human autonomous zone's governing principles. We do not rule our allies or impose our laws on their worlds. We do not demand tribute or submission. Each member species maintains complete sovereignty over their internal affairs and cultural development. Dr. Lim leaned forward, his expression earnest. What we offer is access to a network of mutual support and shared benefits, trade opportunities, technological exchange, military cooperation if requested, and the complete freedom to develop your civilization according to your own values and priorities. The meeting continued for many hours with the Androxy delegation, asking detailed questions about everything from industrial development to cultural exchange programs. Subin found herself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Unlike the formal, rigid protocols of council diplomacy, this felt like a real negotiation between equals who respected each other. The Androxy were particularly interested in the technological sharing agreements that allowed member species to adapt human innovations to their own specific needs. The council had always maintained strict controls on technology transfer, claiming it was necessary to prevent dangerous accidents or military imbalances. As the discussions progressed, it became clear that the Androxy had already made their fundamental decision, they had come seeking confirmation of what they already believed, that humanity offered a better path forward than the Council's increasingly restrictive system. Captain Nam Ambassador Sishkara said with formal ceremony, "The Androxy Republic officially requests admission to the Human Autonomous Zone. We offer our friendship, our resources, our technological capabilities, and our absolute commitment to the principles of mutual cooperation and respect." Subin smiled. Feeling the weight of historical significance in the moment on behalf of humanity and our allied species, I am honored to welcome the Androxy Republic to our growing community. Together we will build something the galaxy has never seen before, a true partnership of equals working toward shared prosperity. As the Androxy delegation departed to carry the news back to their homeworld, Subin stood once again on the bridge looking out at the stars. The Council had expected humanity to fade into obscurity, contained and controlled by their ultimatum. Instead, they had accidentally created the foundation for a completely new galactic order. The age of imposed authority was slowly ending, replaced by something far more powerful and sustainable. The freely given cooperation of species who had chosen to work together rather than be forced to submit to external control. Lieutenant Beak interrupted her thoughts. "Captain, we are receiving similar requests from the Zephyrian Confederacy, the Talaxium Union, and the Independent Worlds Coalition. All of them want to schedule diplomatic meetings to discuss possible alliance membership." Subin nodded with satisfaction. The exodus from Council authority was accelerating as word spread about the alliance's success. Each new member brought their own capabilities, resources, and perspectives, making the whole organization stronger and more diverse. "The Council never expected this," she said quietly. "They thought forcing humanity to leave would solve their problems. Instead, they created the catalyst for everything. They had spent thousands of years trying to prevent. The galaxy was changing, and the change was being driven by choice rather than coercion. For the first time in millennia, species had real alternatives to Council membership. They could choose cooperation over submission, partnership over hierarchy, and innovation over stagnation. The future belonged to those who were brave enough to walk away from the old system and build something better together. 5 years after humanity's dramatic withdrawal from the Council, Fleet Admiral Kong Ji-1 stood in the observation deck of the massive space station Prometheus Prime, watching as another group of former Council members arrived in the Kepler sector. The station, built from the automated systems the Council had foolishly allowed to remain, now served as the capital of the Human Autonomous Zone and the heart of an alliance that included 68 species across hundreds of worlds. The Valerian Collective has just transmitted their formal withdrawal from the Council, reported Commander Song Min as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. That brings the total to 93 species who have abandoned Council authority in favor of joining our alliance. The exodus is accelerating. Ji-1 nodded, his weathered face showing satisfaction rather than surprise. The mass departure had been building momentum for months as species after species discovered that humanity's offer of genuine partnership was far more attractive than the Council's system of hierarchical control and bureaucratic restriction. The reptilian Valerians had been among the most recent to realize that their technological innovations were being deliberately suppressed to maintain the Council's preferred balance of power. "What is the Council's official response?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer would be predictably stubborn. "Completely predictable," Min-Ah replied with amusement. "They have declared all defecting species to be temporarily misguided and have imposed comprehensive economic sanctions. They are also demanding that we cease all expansion activities and return to Council oversight for the good of galactic stability." One chuckled, a sound that carried years of accumulated irony. "And our response to their latest demands?" Ambassador Park sent a very polite message thanking them for their continued concern and informing them that the Human Autonomous Zone recognizes no Council authority over sovereign species who have chosen to leave their organization through completely voluntary and legal means. The beauty of humanity's position was its solid legal foundation. The Council had forced humanity to withdraw from the galactic community, establishing a clear precedent that species could leave Council authority. They had also failed to prevent other species from making the same choice, creating a cascade of departures that had fundamentally altered the balance of galactic power, sir, called out Lieutenant Cho Sang-woo. From the sensor station, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Deep Space Exploration Fleet. Captain Lee reports successful first contact with the Zephyrian Confederacy in the outer spiral regions. They are requesting immediate alliance membership and technological exchange. Agreements. G1 moved to the central holographic display, which showed the current extent of the human autonomous zone's influence. What had begun as humanity's lonely exodus from council space had become a network of allied species that now controlled over 40% of the galaxy's inhabited systems. The growth was accelerating exponentially as word spread about the alliance's unprecedented success. The Zephyrians have been completely isolated for centuries, he observed, studying the tactical data. If they are actively seeking alliance membership, it means they have heard about our trade networks and technological sharing programs. The Council's sphere of influence is eroding faster than their own intelligence services can track or counter. The transformation had been remarkable to witness firsthand. Species that had been restricted to their home systems for generations were suddenly expanding into previously forbidden territories. Civilizations that had been held back by artificial limitations were developing new technologies and exploring new frontiers. The galaxy was experiencing an unprecedented period of growth, innovation, and peaceful cooperation, sir, Minna said, her tone carrying a note of serious concern. There is also intelligence suggesting that the Council is seriously considering direct military action. Their diplomatic rhetoric has shifted from economic pressure to open threats of force. Their military commanders are reportedly advocating for what they call corrective intervention. G1's expression grew thoughtful. The Council's traditional response to any challenge had always been the application of overwhelming military force. The problem was that their strategic advantage had been built on the assumption that they would never face unified opposition. The human autonomous zone represented something they had never encountered: a coalition of species working together by genuine choice rather than imposed coercion. What is our current military status? He asked. 68 species contributing to our collective defense fleet, Minna replied promptly. Combined fleet strength of over 15,000 vessels with human automation technology ensuring rapid replacement production. Our defensive capabilities far exceed what the Council faced when they were dealing with individual species. Acting alone, the tactical display shifted to show military deployments throughout the Alliance territory. Human automated shipyards had been supplemented by manufacturing facilities from dozens of allied species, creating a production capacity that dwarfed anything the Council could achieve. More importantly, the Alliance's military doctrine emphasized cooperation and mutual support rather than the Council's traditional approach of intimidation and punishment. The irony is absolutely beautiful, G1 said, his voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. The Council spent thousands of years creating a system specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of large-scale alliance. They kept species separated, limited their technological development, and made cooperation difficult. Through bureaucratic barriers, when they forced humanity to leave, they accidentally created the catalyst for everything they had feared most. A new transmission arrived from Earth carrying the official seal of the Global Assembly. President Yu Haijin appeared on the main communication screen, her expression reflecting both the gravity of the situation and quiet confidence in humanity's position. Admiral Kang, she began, we have received formal diplomatic protests from the remaining Council species. They are demanding that we dissolve our alliance immediately and return to our previous isolation for what they call the greater good of galactic peace. Our recommended response. G1 smiled, feeling the full weight of history in his words. Madame President, please inform the Council representatives that humanity tried isolation once. We found it incredibly boring and limiting. We much prefer the company of friends who chose to stand with us rather than subjects who were forced to kneel before established authority. As the transmission ended, G1 looked out at the vast fleet of vessels representing dozens of different species, all working together toward common goals of prosperity, peace, and mutual advancement. The Council had never expected humanity to walk away, but they had made an even greater miscalculation. They had never imagined that when humanity left, they would take the galaxy's future with them. The age of imposed authority was finally ending after thousands of years of stagnation. In its place, something unprecedented was emerging across the stars, a galactic community built on genuine choice, voluntary cooperation, and the revolutionary idea that species could govern themselves without needing overlords to tell them what was possible or acceptable. The Council had tried to put humanity in its place and instead had given them the greatest gift imaginable: complete freedom to show the galaxy what true partnership could accomplish when it replaced domination, fear, and control. The new dawn was rising over countless worlds, and it belonged to those who had been brave enough to walk away from the old, failed system. Together, they were building something better than anyone had dared to dream possible, a future where cooperation triumphed over coercion, where innovation flourished without artificial restrictions, and where every species had the chance to reach their full potential among the infinite stars. The revolution was complete, and it had been won not through violence or conquest, but through the simple power of offering people a better choice. The Council never saw it coming, because they had forgotten that the greatest force in the universe was not authority or tradition, it was hope.